I was going to record an intro joke for this video like all my other stupid videos, but I remembered that I did a lore video that included Malekith's backstory, and his backstory is joke enough. Here's a little segment of it. She traded Malekith into slavery for, get this, snake livers and pickled toads.
Is it worth it?
What's going on, nerds? Let's jump right in. Malekith is a 4 energy, 6 power card that reads on reveal at a 1, 2, or 3 cost card from your deck here. It reveals at the end of the game. So overall impressions of Malekith is, I think it's a solid card, but I also think that it's probably not going to change the meta or be like super busted, which is a good thing. But then again, I think people who get the card are probably not going to be disappointed with the card because of how diverse and versatile the deck building can get with it. But there are some upsides and downsides. Let's take a look at them. The first thing here, finds key cards. Now what this means is I think Malekith can be used in combo decks. The first thing comes to mind is like a hazmat type list, where if you don't have Luke Cage or hazmat or cards like US Agent, sometimes those Ajax hazmat decks don't function too well. Well, Malekith can find key cards like that. And we will get to the third point here, but it just lends to the fact that like you can use this card in combos, also just for value, or it can do both in a combo deck, is really cool. The second thing here is encourages clever deck building. So this card makes you think about how you make your deck, which is an awesome thing, especially for games like Marvel Snap, where really deck building's a little limited compared to other games. But this card is going to reward players who use him smarter.
This is big brain time.
I mean, maybe not all the time, because I think this card can be used as just like a good value card. But overall, the fact that this card forces you to consider your 1s, 2s, and 3s, and whether or not you just want to go all in on Malekith or just you kind of use him a little bit is really cool. Third thing, combo or just value. So this kind of relates to the first point here, but you can use this card in like a heavy combo deck where you're relying on a specific 3, 2, or 1 drop, which is sweet, or it can just straight up be like a value card. Like if you play this in a deck that is just running like Sage or Ironheart and maybe Medusa. I know those seem a little silly and basic, but those cards would just provide value, not really any combo potential. On the flip side, you can use Malekith to find cards like Hazmat or Luke Cage for your combos, which is sweet. All right, on to the bad. Inherent RNG. Now, of course, no matter how clever you are with your deck building, you're still at the mercy of RNGesus. Praise be unto him, please don't screw me in my games. So, unless you make your deck with like only a couple of 3 drops and no 1s or 2s, then you're gonna be pretty like, sometimes you get what you want, sometimes you don't. And that's a downside of a card, really, technically. I mean, if the card didn't have a downside, it would be way too good. Second point here, if good, Elaheh says hi. Basically the same issue that Invisible Woman has. We've seen Invisible Woman decks sort of pop up in the past, and Elaheh is always just there to shit all over them. Third point here, counter synergy with cards like Zabu. Basically, the best way to get what I'm trying to say here is go to snap.fan, use the deck builder, make sure you click unreleased, add Malekith to your deck, and now just theorycraft a bit with Malekith. And whenever I say Malekith, I feel like I'm mispronouncing an S, like Malekith. Anyways, but whenever you try cards like Zabu or Psylocke, because that was the first thing that came to my mind with this card, is just like a value deck with Dr. Doom, Iron Lad, Malekith, Anti-Venom, and a bunch of good on reveals. But when you try to build a deck with Zabu, and Psylocke is another good example as like a backup Zabu, it kind of leaves you in an awkward position where you're like, you have a couple of good hits and then a couple of bad ones. But anyways, I'm going to not try to ramble on and express my thoughts with words here because that's difficult and I'm a dummy. Just go to snap.fan and do what I said and you'll figure out what I mean here. It's just a little awkward sometimes, especially with cards like Zabu and Psylocke. Example deck list. This is just, it's an Ajax Hazmat deck, and Malekith is really great here as a another way to get a hold of some really crucial cards. Red Guardian can win games. Luke Cage is sometimes vital, especially if you don't draw your Ajax. Especially if you don't draw your Ajax. You really want your Luke Cage to stop your Hazmat, your US agent, and Man-Thing from really screwing you over. And also, you can just get Hazmat with Malekith, which is pretty much the key card of this deck is Hazmat. We have Zabu to ramp out all our 4-drops. We have Iron Lad, Malekith, and Venom as just multiple ways to see important cards. Basically, I think this type of deck, maybe Sarah isn't really good here, but this type of deck with Malekith is like where you're never not going to hit your combo in some way or another, which is really cool. But yeah, that's the example deck list. Moving on. All right, so should you spend tokens on Malekith? So yeah, as far as tokens go, I say, weirdly enough, I know I've been talking Malekith up a bit. I'm not saying it's awesome, but it's going to be solid. You're probably going to be happy with it. But as far as tokens go, specifically tokens, I would wait like a day or two to see what people are doing with Malekith, what seems to be the best place for him. And if those decks are the kind of decks you want to play, then you can spend your tokens on Malekith. Keys is a totally different story though, because you're getting 2 other cards, obviously. So as far as keys go, if you don't have Thena, I think it's a snap grab, snap or pass. That's not this video. This isn't worth it. If you don't have Thena, open all 4 for Malekith and Thena. Thena's just a really solid card. You're not going to be disappointed with either of those. Valentina is a whatever, really. Okay, that's Malekith. Pickled toads, snake livers, slavery, and war. That's what he's all about. See you in the next video. Later, nerds.